What is up, the Lions fans? It's your boy Motor City Don P. We're back here once again. You already know what it is. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Ain't really nothing special about it. It's just Wednesday. We started off with a super chat from Brent DeWitt. I'm gonna get to that after I hit this interlude, this interview, this introduction. You know, it's flushing, it's Russian. All right. I don't know where that came from, but it is what it is. You already know when you see me, front your TV. One thing's for certain, and three things are for sure. Number one, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. Number two, we came to give you stats, and none of that said it. And number three, perhaps the most important number of them all, number three, we want to make sure we keep your Lions news pragmatic. And you may be asking yourself, how, Don? How, Mr. P, does one keep the Lions news pragmatic? Well, it's very simple. It's very easy. I'm glad you asked. I'll let you know. I'll tell you right now. Smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Share with your peoples. And once you've done those three things, and in any order, you have kept your news pragmatic, your Lions news pragmatic. And since sharing is caring, when you share this stream with your mothers, your uncles, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your fathers, your brothers, your sisters, your neighbors, your brothers, your fathers, your sisters, your uncles, you name it, you have indeed cared about those people. All right. What is up, though, everybody in the chat? You know who you are. The people that are chatting, the people who are just watching, ain't saying nothing. The people that's on that Victoria, don't tell nobody. You know who you are. Shout out to all of you. And we got some things that we're going to get into today. I just did a simulation, and it's gonna be fun. I'm eager to see. I haven't looked at it yet. We're gonna use my AI friend to tell us how the season would go if Dan Campbell was calling the plays from week number 1, and we're gonna get into that. And it's gonna piggyback off of an article that I have. So the first thing we got the super chat from Brent DeWitt. He says the toilet seats finish 2 and 6 or 3 and 5, irrelevant yet. So the toilet seat is the Bears. Again, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. So what we're gonna do, because Brent, I know you said that yesterday. What we're gonna do here, we're gonna play the game. Would you like to play a game? We're gonna play the game, Brent. And the game we're gonna play is the schedule game. So we're gonna look for the Chicago Bears remaining schedule. So 2025 schedule. All right. And we're going to be completely unbiased here. I'm not going to see them playing the crappy, poopy Raiders and say, oh, that's a win for the Raiders. I'm not going to do that. All right. The next game that they have, I guess they're on a bye this week. No, wait, what's today? Yeah. No. Today's what? What's today? They're not on a bye. Okay. So they got they've got the Vikings. And are they at the Vikings? I think they're at the Vikings. Hold on, let me see. Yes, it is US Bank Stadium. All right, so we know what happened with the Chicago Bears. The first game of the season when they played the Minnesota Vikings, I think it was Sunday Night Football or whatever the case may be, and the Minnesota Vikings came back and they won that game. But I will say that was some Matt Eberflus type stuff where the Chicago Bears of last year with Caleb Williams would just figure out a way to collapse. I think that by hook or by crook, that whether it is their own grit and determination that Osama bin Johnson has established over there, changing the culture of things, because no doubt they don't go 6-3 to this point and be tied with the Lions as far as record wise. They're not tied in the NFC North, but they are second in the NFC North. Okay. They are second in the NFC North. I don't think you get to that point of second in the NFC North when you've been in the basement for the last few years. I mean, really, like with the last 5 or 6 years, they've been in the basement of the NFC North. You don't get there without a culture change. You don't get there without a mentality shift. This Chicago Bears team is better than what we thought they would be at this point in the season. The Minnesota Vikings team is not good. If you can neutralize the defense, what chance do they have? JJ McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings put up 27 points against the Detroit Lions. And guess what? JJ McCarthy had 140 yards passing and 12 yards rushing. He accounted for 150 yards of offense from the quarterback position. They didn't put up 27 points because they're good. They put up 27 points because they were getting the ball in advantageous situations. Fumbles, turnovers on downs, special teams, big returns, all these things. A lot of short fields. JJ McCarthy didn't do too much. Running game did a lot. Okay. The Bears have proven that they could be in shootouts. So I would say that the Bears are going to win this game. So 7-3. Eagles, Bears lose that game. 7-4. Bears, Browns, Bears win that game. 8-4. All right. No, I'm not spending too much time on it. I spent time on it just kind of getting into my assessment of this team. Okay, I skipped one. Okay. Bears, Steelers. We want to say the Steelers. That's a toss-up. Steelers haven't looked great. Aaron has on day, off day, on day, off day. I don't know. That's a toss-up. Let's just say the Bears do lose that game. Okay. So what did I say? Whether they now? I got to go back because I messed up. Okay. So I said the Vikings, they win 7-3. Bears, Steelers, let's say they lose 7-4. Eagles, Bears, they'll lose that again, 7-5. Packers, Bears. I mean, Packers, Bears. What have we seen from the Packers, who are third place in the division? Might add, but still could go 17-0. Is this? It's possible, right? I'm gonna say the Bears beat the Packers. I again. Okay. Now there's this little pissing match. Matt LaFleur is gonna be really, really angry and really because Osama bin Johnson talked that talk when he came across. I don't know why he did that. Maybe he just really thinks that little of Matt LaFleur, and maybe he thought he was the one to pick on. And to his credit, Osama bin Johnson's credit, he's probably right because Matt LaFleur is a baby back bitch. So let's say the Bears win that one. All right, 8-5. Cool. Bears, Browns. Bears win 9-5. Bears, Packers. I don't think you get it twice. I don't think they're going to sweep the Packers. So 9-6. 49ers, Bears. I say Niners That's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough. The Niners are at home, so I'm gonna pick the Niners in that one. Um, so now they're 9-7, and then the Bears Lions. I think the Lions win that game. So 9-8. Um, I don't think 9-8 gets you to the playoffs, but I also don't think it gets you into the cellar. So you may be right. They may not. They may not. They may finish 2-6. I don't think they finished 2-6. 3-5 is what you got, and I got 3-5 as well. Okay, I don't think they're going to be irrelevant because if everything shakes out the way that it's going, they may finish above the Packers. Who knows? I don't know what the Packers are going to do. It's again, it's possible the Packers could turn it around, or there are questions of if the Packers are going to make the playoffs, and it's legitimate questions. I'm just saying. All right. Let me get to y'all's comments because I know I got a lot of them, and I'll get to those before we really get started on this Detroit Lions stuff. The season starts now. Everything is about the playoffs and winning a Super Bowl. Yes, facts. Word. All right. Lions are getting healthy exactly the right time. They have started the clock for DJ Reed and some dude who's only going to play 2 more games this season anyway. So I'm not even going to mention his name. Getting Reed and Kirby back is huge. Facts. What up, Robert Stevens? What up, though, Mr. Morale 313? We have an even shot at the Eagles. I wouldn't say we have an even shot. I think we would have a much more than even shot. The Eagles are favored by what, 1.5 points at home. You get 3 points for being at home. So that means that Vegas is not even confident that the Eagles will beat the Lions at home. What up, though, Will Murray? Our head coach, Dan Campbell, is like the attending doctor. His offense needed attention. Losing to Minnesota 4-5. He should maybe call the plays, talk with the squad. Great insight. Great insight. I think Dan Campbell has already said he called the plays. Okay. All right. What up, though, Jody Carruthers? Waiting for someone to expose Osama bin Johnson. What is your score prediction? I will give a score prediction on Friday. So you're going to have to come back on Friday. I'm not going to give you a score prediction today. We still got to have the final injury report and all that stuff before, and then and break down everything. So I will give you that on Friday. All right. We got it. All right. So today we are talking about the Detroit Lions, the Washington Commanders, the offense as led by Dan Campbell. We want to know, is it sustainable? Is it sustainable? Why do I ask that question? Because I don't believe in the Washington Commanders. And it may be time for a little bit of cold water. But I want to make a point. And I want to make it just because. This channel, Motor City Cats, I think we were among I'm not gonna take credit for being the first because I didn't watch everybody else's channel. So I'm not gonna say that and then someone be like, I was the first. Okay. This chat was among the first to notice that there was a problem with this offense. Um, this chat wasn't parroting things like, "Oh, we're the top scoring team in the NFC. Oh, we score 30 plus points per game. Oh, this, that, and the third thing." Johnny Mo is not the problem. Our offense scores 30 plus points per game. Now that the cover has been pulled back, and now that Dan Campbell has taken over play calling duties, Johnny Morton is the worst offensive coordinator that the Lions have ever had, it seems. Just watching other shows, looking at other channels, watching other creators, it seems that Johnny Morton is now the worst offensive coordinator ever. He's the dummy that couldn't take all of these weapons and do anything with it. He's the guy that said he wasn't going to change anything, and he came in here and changed everything. He's the guy that told you that JMO was going to be heavily featured in this offense, and he was going to take deep shot after deep shot after deep shot after deep shot after deep shot, and he was not able to get the ball to Jameson Williams. He's the guy that told you that Jameson Williams had to live downfield. There was no other way that you could get the ball to Jameson Williams. It had to be all the way downfield. He had to run 50-yard routes. And once he ran a 50-yard route, he had to have 87 yards of separation before you could throw him the football. He was the guy that came in talking all this stuff about everything that he was going to do and how he was going to dictate to the defense and how he wasn't going to let the defense dictate to him. He was that guy. And I told you he was that guy. Now a lot of people are catching up. I'm not saying he's dumb. I'm not saying he's the worst offensive coordinator we've ever had. I've seen worse. We've all seen worse. We all saw Joe Lombardi. He's the worst. We all saw him. We all saw Joe Lombardi come in here telling us he needed his Jimmy Graham, which is why we didn't get Aaron Donald. So not only are you a bad offensive coordinator, but you called for a player such as Eric Ebron to be drafted over Aaron Donald. You, sir, are the worst. The totality of what you did to this team in the very short time that you were here, you, sir, are the worst. Johnny Mo's not even a close second. The reason that Johnny Mo is a bad offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions is because he couldn't do anything with all these weapons. That's why. Okay. So I just wanted to point that out because, as I said, I was saying it when it wasn't popular to say. I was saying it because I was looking at it and not just listening to numbers. All right. Let's move on. Robert Stevens singing the tune, huh? Johnny can't call a game, but he does know offense, so he's a spotter in the booth. Facts. And Dan Campbell said as much. I appreciate you, Timothy Reed. I appreciate you so much because that's all I try to do. Just give out the truth as I see it. That's why we call me the ball seer. I synced it. All right. So we've got an article here. It says the Lions' offensive resurgence against the Commanders is no fluke. And we'll go ahead and look at that. And who wrote this article? Bo Underwood from Sideline Report. He says the Detroit Lions' 44-22 win over the Washington Commanders on Sunday was the ultimate return to form. The Lions rung up 546 yards of offense, 320 passing yards, and 226 rushing, and averaged 8 yards per play. Nearly every skilled player got involved, with Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams starring in particular, as Jared Goff was almost flawless distribution All right. Yeah. Okay. I'm good. All right. All right. So my browser froze. That's what happened. And I was up here talking to y'all about because my camera wasn't frozen. I'm looking at my camera on the other screen. So I felt I felt good about it. I felt good about maybe y'all being able to hear me. But you couldn't. So let's go ahead. I didn't get too far. Um All right, so we got the Lions' offensive resurgence against the Commanders is no fluke. This was written by Bo Underwood for Sideline Report. He says the Detroit Lions' 44-22 win over the Washington Commanders on Sunday was the ultimate return to form. The Lions rung up 546 yards of offense, 320 passing yards, and 226 rushing yards, and averaged 8 yards per play. Nearly every skilled player got involved, with Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams starring in particular, as Jared Goff was almost flawless distributing the ball. The Lions' defense also came to play with 1.5 sacks from safety Brian Branch and a stellar half from Terrion Arnold before the quarterback left with a concussion. The Lions went up 41-16 in the fourth quarter before Washington added a garbage time touchdown. It was a revelatory display from a glasses sporting Dan Campbell, who assumed play calling duties from John Morton for the first time all season. But against a beaten up, disappointed Commanders team that has now lost 5 straight games, how confident can we be at this that this will be the version of Detroit that we see going forward? So that is the question that I am asking all of you. Okay? How confident are we? Because I told you guys the week before the Commanders game, after we had lost to the Vikings, as we were licking our wounds, as I was crashing out 2-3 straight days about Johnny Morton. I told you guys I didn't want to see anything from there was nothing we could learn from this game. We better put up 40 and we better not beat them by some silly ass score like 24-21. And that's not what happened. We didn't beat them by that silly ass score. We did put up 44 actually. And we didn't put up 44 with Johnny Morton. See, Johnny Morton wasn't allowed to come in here and redeem himself as he shouldn't have been, because he shouldn't have failed the way that he failed, and he shouldn't have said the things that he said after failing that way. It's your fault. It's not mine. Look, I have no fault in this. I call perfect plays. My offensive line doesn't protect my quarterback. That's why we sucked. Okay. So when we saw that, we knew that he wasn't going to be calling plays in some capacity. We felt that some people said he should be fired, some people, but there was something about that that stunk. There was something about that that did not jibe with the Lions culture, not from this regime. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and Sheila and Chris Spielman and all, not from here. You don't do that here. Okay, cool. But when I said you couldn't really learn anything from this game, is because the Commanders suck ass. They're terrible, right? They talk, they smell like 2 packs of ass. That's what you talking about. It stinks. Okay. But here is an opinion. And I'll see if I agree with this opinion or not. And you guys can tell me if you agree with the opinion or not. It says Lions offensive explosion won't be an anomaly. This is not the same Washington team that handed the Lions a stunning 45-31 loss in the divisional round of the playoffs last year. They did not hand us a stunning loss. They were given a loss they were given the W by us giving them the ball 5 times and not taking it from them once. That's what happened. They didn't hand us anything. We gave it to them. Okay. All right. Just because I had to make that clear yesterday, and I want to make clear the language today. Okay. They were without star quarterback Jayden Daniels, wide receiver Terry McLaurin, and both starting defensive ends in Dedrick Wise and Dorrance Armstrong on Sunday. The Commanders haven't won a game since October 5th and have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. The unit ranks 30th in the NFL in estimated points added overall and 31st against the pass. They've surrendered the most passing yards in the NFL and the fourth most rushing yards. Okay. So now these are obviously these stats are coming in after Sunday because I gave you the rankings before Sunday. They weren't 30th in anything. They were 29th in some things, but they weren't 30th or 31st in anything. So obviously, after giving up 500 yards plus, they they dropped a few pegs. All in all, not a bad defense for Campbell to call plays against for the first time since 2021. It was just, let's try something a little different. Campbell said, look, I know what I want to do. I know how I want to do it. Now, that being said, this is a collaborative effort. Now, I was taking input from John Morton that whole time and the other coaches. Okay. Taking input doesn't mean listening. I'll take your input, but that doesn't mean I'm going to put in your input. You feel me? I'll take your input and I'll put your input in my pocket. I'll take your input. I'll put your input in my pocket. I'll think about using it later. But right now, I'm calling this plays. Okay. Okay. All right. So, of course, it was a much better matchup for Detroit than Brian Flores' Vikings or Todd Bowles' Buccaneers, but the Lions were so efficient and utterly dominant that a performance like this just can't be explained away by who they were facing. To an extent, I agree with that. And this is why I said that the key is, if the Detroit Lions can be that efficient, if the Detroit Lions can execute in the same way that they did, maybe they're not getting the yards. Maybe they're not putting up damn near 600 yards against the Philadelphia Eagles defense. But maybe they get you 400. Right? Because if they can remain balanced and the offensive line can protect the way they did and open up the holes the way they did, the way they had not done all season, really, with Johnny Morton calling plays, protections were off, miscommunications. What did I tell you guys when I was refuting the claims of being 30 points per game? What does it look like? It looks difficult. I said that all season, right? It looks difficult. It looks hard. Oh yeah, we got 30 points that game, but it was difficult. We had to scratch and claw for everything. Nothing looked easy. Nothing was being put in place to facilitate everything that we did. Players make plays, but coaches weren't making it easy for them. Players had to rely on talent. It's great when you have a Ja who can outrun the entire defense, but has to run around 30, 40 yards in the backfield trying to outrun the defense. That's terrible. But when you've got a guy that can scheme him into the open space and say, go with no one around you, and we'll see who's going to catch you. Get up on that line, boy, and we'll see what's what. When you have that, that's awesome. That's awesome. Because you didn't waste any time running laterally back and forth. You didn't do any of that. You just got the ball in space and you took off. And good luck to anybody who didn't have an angle. And sometimes good luck to someone who did have an angle. Okay? So that was my point. It looked difficult. So if okay, if the Lions can be that efficient, if the Lions can protect, if the Lions line can protect the Lions quarterback, if the Lions line can open up holes for the Lions running backs at a consistent basis, the way that they did against the Commanders, you're not going to explode for 500 plus yards every week, but you are better suited and I'm not going to read the rest of this article because he's talking about EPA and all this other stuff and all these advanced analytics, which I don't care for. Okay, that's my point. I don't care about an EPA. I don't care about none of that stuff because what does it look like? All right. So let's get to y'all's comments and then we will get to our little simulation that we have. Yeah, I was. Some of the most successful head coaches call the offensive plays MCDC fits the mold. Khalif Raymond also balled out. Right. Get Fox a lounge chair. All right, here we go. Are y'all ready for this simulation? If you're ready for this simulation, let me get an amen. Now, I want you to look to your left. I want you to look to your right. And I want you to say to your neighbor, Alizé. Shout out. If you know, use the hashtag. Y'all don't be good, but sometimes I get deep. Is it my quiver? I got so many arrows. And the arrows, they can come from the 90s. They can come from the 80s. They can come from the 70s. They can come from last week. You know what I'm saying? They can come from yesterday. You just don't know where they're coming from. But if everybody is ready for this simulation, we'll go ahead and do the simulation. All right. Fact of the matter, Morton's play calling is way too predictable. Too predictable, vanilla, unimaginative, cannot use the weapons that we have. All right. So the way that this simulation works, I asked my guy, Gemini, I said, we're going to take the first 8 games of the season where Jonathan Morton III was calling. Jonathan Morton III, that's his new name. Was calling the plays. And then we're going to take the 9th game of the season where Dan Campbell was calling the plays. And we're going to extrapolate that out over the first 8 games. And we're going to see what the results would have been. What does AI believe our record would have been if Dan Campbell was calling the plays? I got this idea partially because of that article. And also, yesterday, there were a lot of people in the chat asking the question, what do you think the record would have been had Dan Campbell been calling the plays from week number 1? So now we're going to have a little bit of input into why, or insight into why and what it could have been. So it's got part 1, the John Morton offense, games 1 through 8. Okay. It says your premise is correct. After Usama bin Johnson's departure, it doesn't say Usama. I put that in there. John Morton took over as OC, and the Lions started the 2025 season with a 5-3 record. Their 8 games played were weeks 1 through 9 with a week 8 bye. While the 5-3 record looked good on the surface, the offense was winning in spite of itself. Wow. Gemini said that. All right. The deficiencies you're looking for were clear in the team's 3 losses and even in some of their wins. Record 5-3 losses. Week 1 at Packers, 13-27. Week 6 at Chiefs, 17-30. Week 9 versus the Vikings, 24-27. The final game before the switch. The deficiencies. The offense under Morton was defined by stagnation, predictability, and inefficiency. This is not me. I didn't say any of this. This is the AI. Okay. Anemic in losses. The offense completely disappeared against good teams in week 1 loss to Green Bay. The team was held to just 246 total yards. Terrible on third down. I did not mention third downs. I told it to look at the stats and tell me what it saw. Okay. So I'm telling y'all, as I'm reading this off, I gave it clear instructions. I didn't mention third downs. I didn't mention anything to look for other than the deficiencies in the offense. Okay? Terrible on third down. Through the first 8 games, the Lions' third down conversion rate was among the worst in the NFL, hovering around 36%. This constantly killed drives and kept the defense on the field. Predictable dink and dunk passing. The offense had become one-dimensional. In the Week 1 loss, Jared Goff completed 31 passes, but for only 225 yards, a very low 5.8 yards per attempt. It was all short horizontal throws. Failure to use star players. I didn't say none of this. I didn't guide it to do that. Failure to use star players. The run game was inconsistent and star players were neutralized. In the Week 1 loss, running backs Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery were held to a combined 2.7 yards per touch. Gibbs infamously had 10 receptions for just 31 yards. In the Week 9 loss to the Vikings, the last straw, Gibbs was held to just 25 yards rushing. The offense had lost the aggressive physical identity Campbell had built. It was sloppy, predictable, and failing to execute in critical moments. Even AI can see. Even AI can see. Could Madden call better than Morton if you set Madden's AI to auto? Probably. Robert Stevens says 8-1. Okay, we'll get to I don't know. You say 8-1. Some people were saying 7-2. So we were perfect on third down Sunday. Oh, twice on fourth down. Hey, we're gonna get to it. All right. So y'all heard the assessment that AI made in about the first 8 games. Okay, part 2, the Dan Campbell takeover. The takeover. Cause you so lame. Okay, anyway. Hashtag if you know, you use hashtag. Game 9. Following the 3-point loss to the Vikings, Campbell, just as he did in 2021 with Anthony Lynn, took over play calling duties for Game 9, Week 10 against the Washington Commanders. The result was an immediate, violent correction. Result 44-22 win. Team stats versus Commanders. Total yards 546, rushing yards 267, passing yards 320, third down percentage 60%, 9 for 15, red zone percentage 80%, 4 for 5, 0 turnovers. Possessions scored on their first 8 straight possessions. Player involvement explodes. As you noted, the difference was who got the ball and how. The offense was aggressive, creative, and explosive. Jahmyr Gibbs, 172 total yards and 3 touchdowns. Jameson Williams, 6 catches for 119 yards and 1 touchdown. Jared Goff, 25 of 33 for 320 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a 135.9 passer rating. This wasn't a dink and dunk offense. This was a physical dominant attack that unleashed its best players vertically and on the ground. Okay, now, part 3, my opinion, the hypothetical 8-0 start. What? Gemini thinks that we would have been undefeated in the first 8 games if Dan Campbell was calling the plays. All right, so let's see what the reasoning is. Going back through those first 8 games, here's my opinion on how the outcomes would have been different if Dan Campbell had been calling plays from Week 1. In my view, the 5-3 record was a massive underperformance. I believe the Lions would have been 8-0 or 7-1 at worst. At worst. Okay? Week 1, we're going to go through the weeks. Week 1 at Green Bay. Packers lost 13-27. What happened? The offense was completely anemic, 246 total yards. Morton's game plan had no answer for the Packers defense, resulting in Gibbs being used as a check down receiver, 10 catches for 31 yards. Campbell's difference. The Campbell-led offense put up 267 yards rushing alone. We would not have abandoned the run or settled for horizontal passes. His aggressive physical style would have attacked the Packers defense, and it's highly unlikely the offense would have been held to 13 points. Verdict, likely a win. Week 6 at Kansas City, lost 17-30. What happened? The offense was humbled and held under 350 total yards. You cannot beat the Chiefs by being predictable and inefficient. Campbell's I'm not saying it. I'm not adding anything to this. This is all what Gemini said. Okay. Campbell's difference. To beat the Chiefs, you have to be explosive and score touchdowns, not field goals. The Campbell-led offense versus Washington scored on 8 straight possessions and was 80% in the red zone. This is the only style that gives you a chance in that matchup. It would have been a shootout, but the Lions would have been equipped for it. Verdict, a much closer game, likely a toss-up. This is the one loss I could still see happening, but it would have been a 38-35 type of game, not a 17-30 dud. Now, the crazy thing is I said yesterday when people were asking me, I said probably 8-1 because the Chiefs game to me was the only game in which we lost that we simply didn't play well enough to win. We just simply didn't play well enough. Now, obviously, the Vikings game, because we were talking about obviously in the Vikings game, we actually still could have won that game. We had an opportunity. I feel like the Chiefs were it was the only game where we didn't have an opportunity to win, is what I'm saying with our play. All right, week 9 versus Minnesota Vikings, lost 24-27. What happened? This was the most unforgivable loss. The defense played great, holding the Vikings to just 258 total yards, but the sloppy and predictable offense couldn't capitalize. Gibbs was a non-factor, 25 rushing yards, and they lost by 3 points. Campbell's difference. Campbell's first game as a play caller featured 172 yards from Gibbs. This loss was a direct failure of offensive scheme. With Campbell calling the plays, there's almost no chance an offense this talented fails to score more than 24 points against a defense that gave up that many yards. Verdict, definitely a win. Okay? Now, the Packers game, it said likely a win. The Chiefs game, it said it's a toss-up. But if it wasn't a win, it would have been really close. This one said definitely a win. You definitely beat the Vikings. I like Gemini. Gemini knows its stuff. All right, the Lions 5-3 start was a classic case of team being held back by its coordinator. The moment Campbell took the reins, the offense reverted to its true dominant form. Do you guys agree with that assessment? Do you agree with Gemini? Do you think that Gemini is right? Do you have other opinions? Let me know. All right. Now, the other part about this is what do you think in your opinion? Okay, I'm asking the chat. What do you think it has to look like versus Philly offensively? What do you think it has to look like versus Philly offensively for us to win just based off of the offensive performance? Because we're not really talking about the defensive performance. The defense hasn't really been the problem all season. The problem has been that the offense hasn't been matching what the defense has been producing. So what do you think it has to look like in Philadelphia for this offense to do enough to score enough points to win? MCDC played as a tight end. Tight ends need to know everything in an offense. You can see it in his play calls. Played here when we went 0-16. He has a real feel for the game. These are facts. We've been saying the same things as Gemini all week. So either Gemini watches this podcast or it was clear as day. So why did it take Lions fans 9 weeks, some Lions fans, 9 weeks to say, you know what? Yeah, Johnny Morton does suck. Why did it take that long? Gemini looked through this stuff in 3 minutes and was like, hey, yeah, not very good. Not very good at all. That's crazy. That is rather crazy. So what do y'all think? Philly's going to be a tough matchup. Okay? They've got a good defense. Their defensive line has been rebuilt. They got those two monsters in the middle, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Now they've got Jalen Phillips coming off of the edge. You got Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. Okay. So you got your slot corner and you got your outside corner. Quinyon Mitchell is probably going to be tasked with guarding Jameson Williams. Now, Quinyon Mitchell is fast. But their scheme is not man heavy. They're a zone scheme. Okay. So I think there'll be opportunities to exploit the zones, especially with Dan Campbell calling the plays, right? Because Dan Campbell, so the crazy thing is this. Here's what I want to know. Because this has been bothering me since he said it. Dan Campbell said that Johnny Moe was instrumental in the passing game. That's his baby. He's really good at it. Okay. So now Johnny Moe basically has been relegated to passing game coordinator of the Detroit Lions. Here's the question that I have. If the pass game is his baby, if he's so good in the pass game, if he's been a pass game coordinator, because he has. Back last year when Bo Nix was a rookie, he was the pass game coordinator for the Denver Broncos, and Bo Nix had a great rookie season. Okay, especially passing the football. So if he's a passing game coordinator, why, when he was the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, were his routes so crap? This is I've been wanting to know the answer to this question. If you are a passing game coordinator, you cut your teeth passing or coordinating the passing game. Why don't you know how to layer routes? And why did route layering just become a thing when Dan Campbell started calling plays? Were there plays in there with layered routes and Johnny Morton was just like, I'm not throwing those. We're going to the deep route section of the play calling sheet? Is that, I mean, is that what was happening? Because it just seems very strange to me. So back to what happens with that zone scheme. There are going to be people open in the spots, and I think the Lions are going to have to be comfortable throwing into spots. I mean, you can throw a comeback in a zone 10 yards down the field if you have the time, if you're being protected. Okay? The difficulty I think this offensive line is going to have is because those two dudes are directly in the middle. They play next to each other. Jordan Davis is 6'87", 937 pounds. Okay. And Jalen Carter is a big dude too. And they are going to be pushing on Tate Ratledge and Graham Glasgow and Coyote. They're gonna be pushing on them. They're gonna be pulling on them. They're going to be bull rushing them. They're going to be swimming them. They're going to be doing all types of things. Can they stay upright and keep Jared Goff upright? That is the question. That is the question. But I think in the passing game, like I said, there are spots and zones. You'll be able to run through zones, pick your spots. You got people like Sammy Potts. We got, Amon-Ra St. Brown, savvy route runners. Okay. Know where to sit down in the zone. JMO is learning all of that stuff, learning where to, stop in the zone, learning when to throttle it down, kick it up in the high gear. So I don't think that zone scheme is going to give Jared Goff too many problems. He needs to know the disguise coverages, and he needs to recognize his pre-snap, right? He needs to recognize who's faking the blitz and who's dropping back in the coverage, and he's got to see it. He's got to see it, because if he doesn't see it, it's getting picked off. It's getting knocked down. He's got to see that. But if he sees those things effectively all game, then he can effectively use the middle of the field, which will kill them, because they won't be able to get us off the field, and it'll be another game where the efficiency of the offense, where you score on all 8 possessions, will be on display again. Let me get to your comments. Hats off to MCDC for making the move before the ship had sailed. Yes. Before the ship was scuttled and there was a big hole in the bottom of it. And then it became the Titanic. The unthinkable Titanic. Why panic? Get you a hammock and go to Hamtramck. I got a ham sandwich. Picnicking in the park with Yogi Bear on the Atlantic. That boy fantastic. You don't want me to get in my bag. I see the defense making a difference in Philly. Offense, we need to play well in Philly. Yeah, I think the defense will make a difference, but I'm just talking specifically about the offense. We'll talk about the defense on Friday. I keep him coming back. Morton didn't set up plays by running plays to respond to how the defense played it. Well, he dictates to the defense. The defense don't dictate to him. That's what I was told. Was I lied to? Being the pass game coordinator last year is why I believed he would be a good OC here. Boy, was I wrong. It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. It makes zero sense. It's like you knew nothing about the passing game, but you were the coordinator of the passing game. I don't know. Maybe he should take his ham sandwich to Hamtramck on the hammock. picnic in the park with Yogi Bear on the Atlantic. Maybe he should do that. I don't know. Go take a nap. Something. I don't know. It was crazy. All right. You know what we do on this show, boy. We flow, boy. Shout out to Marcellus Wiley. So mailbag. What you want to do? What you want to do when they reading you? Mailbag. Snicks, mailbag. Get your mailbag questions in. Get them in. Basking it. All right, let's get these mailbag questions in, man. Again, as I said, score prediction will be on Friday. On Friday. Y'all know I won't be here tomorrow, but Friday we will have our score predictions. We will have our whatchamacallit. We'll have all of our final injury reports and everything. So I'll be able to give you a more accurate score prediction to see who's actually gonna be playing. I did say that they started the clock for DJ Reed. Does that mean that DJ Reed will be playing? It doesn't mean that it's the 21-day week, 21-day window. If they're gonna do the same thing that they did with Aleem McNeil, they started his 21-day window. He looked great in practice, but they kept him out. They did the same thing with Malcolm Rodriguez. Um, the only thing that I could say is this was an in-season injury. It wasn't season ending, and it's a hamstring. Hamstrings are funny. I think what they'll do is monitor him as far as DJ Reed practice today. What do you feel like tomorrow? Can you practice again tomorrow? Are you sore? Are you tight? How does the hamstring feel? So I think DJ Reed, it's possible he could be a game time decision. It's also possible that he could get ruled out um, by Friday evening. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. Aiden Hutchinson expects the Lions Eagles to be college football esque. Jahmyr Gibbs wins NFC Offensive Player of the Week after dominant game versus Commanders. Okay, Ahmed Hassanin stayed with the Detroit Lions due to loyalty. Cool story, bro. Everyone is weighing in on Dan Campbell taking over. It says watch Dan Campbell taking over play calling for our Lions is a bold move, and that's what they talked about on the Dan Patrick show. Let's see. Marcus, oh my god. I don't even want to talk about that guy, bro. I don't want to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about him. He doesn't warrant speaking about until he actually plays consistent games. You got to play more than 2 games for me to care about you being on the team. All right. This is crazy. Crazy. All right. So we got no mailbag questions. We are going to go ahead and stab out, man. So I appreciate everyone that came through and hung out and stopped by for a drinking conversation. You know what it is. You know what it is. We got the drinks, we got the conversation. There's nothing in this cup but coffee. Okay. I don't have no purple stuff in my cup, none of that. Okay. All right. So as I said, I won't be here tomorrow, but I will be here Friday. So come through, get your mailbag questions, write them down, send them to the Discord, man. If you're in the Discord, but again, let me know that you've sent questions in because I don't get notifications. I do not know why. I do have them turned on, just don't get them. All right. Once again, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. We came to give you stats, not none of that static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic, and we are out. Peace.